Okay, let's see if this works. Can I get a little bit of a sound check? A thumbs up. That would be amazing, and we can get going. Because today we're going to talk about how to outsource social media without risking brand reputation or quality, which I'm super excited about because it's going to give you a shit ton of your time back, which is exciting. But first, we got to get down with the technical details, which is always the thing that keeps us wrecked. But I think we can figure it out this time. Okay. Let's see here what we got. Any comments? There we go. Let's see what time delay we're working with here today. Here, audio. Well, I think it looks good. Like we got audio, we got video, we got everything, which is not where we started out 14 minutes ago, but at least we have something, which I'm very excited about. Okay, cool. Let's do this. So today we're going to talk about how to outsource your social media without risking quality or brand reputation. So basically, this is for you guys who are doing everything yourself and who is kind of unable to move social media tasks to someone else, because every time you do, they kind of come back with shitty graphics, or it's not really how you would say it. It sounds like it's AI generated, stuff like that. So I will give you 6 simple steps to get your team to do your most soul crushing social media task for you. And you could do this really fast. I would even argue to say if you spend some time on this, you could get them up and running in 7 days easily with a little bit of help. Here's an example from a client of mine. And I'm wondering if this relates to you. If you do, I would love to hear your thumbs up or your comment or anything. So she told me this the other day. I have to get projects off my plate. I need more time in a big way. It could free up 50% of my time so I can focus on the growth and my course, and then I can grow the business. So give me a thumbs up or whatever if you feel like there's a shit ton of things that you are doing that you shouldn't be doing. And if you didn't do them, your life and your business would be so much better. So for you guys who are online course creators, agency owners, or online coaches who just feel overwhelmed by the task that you have to do, you have to create Instagram reels, you have to be consistent, you have to do it in high quality, you have to do it every day, and you got to do this until the end of life, basically. Then that's actually okay. We can fix that, because a lot of these things you'll realize today is easy to delegate once you have a little bit of structure, a little bit of support. And in this workshop, and it's a workshop, I really want you to go away here with things done rather than just listening to some random online dude. So you will have stuff done that will set you up for massive success when it comes to delegating these things, what you do. So first off, before we get into actually how to do this, if you think there are like this can't be delegated, this is probably one of the most common things that I get, is that people say, you know what, this can't be delegated. It's my unique voice. This needs to be in the way how I do it. Then I'm going to offer you a little bit of a humility pill here. Yes, I would argue that you are unique, but it's not the way you edit Instagram reels, or it's not the way you make your carousels that make you unique. Like, you can think about it this way. Have you ever seen a viral video that you didn't edit or you didn't create? Yes, like, of course, like most videos you didn't create, and most viral videos you didn't, create. So obviously there's people out there who can make extremely good content. So the question is just, how do you get them to make extremely good content in your voice? So the things that you think cannot be delegated, just open up your mind today, and maybe there are more things that you could delegate if you just had some support doing it, or if you had some more tools on how to do it. And if you think it's too risky, then also I want you to kind of reconsider. Like, people come to me and say, I can't delegate this because what if they screw up? What if they wreck my brand? Or what if they just speak in a way where it's not me, it's going to be embarrassing? Then, like, we delegate all kinds of risky stuff. Like, if you have kids, you give your kids to other people to care for them. like childcare, right? That's literally like, if that's not risky, then I don't know what's risky. And then we want to fly across the world, and we're like, you know what? I don't know how to do this, so I'm just gonna get someone else to do it for me, aka a pilot, right? We do it all the time, and they're super scary, or they should be super scary, but they're not, because we trust the people who are doing it for us. And I want to create that setting where you have the same rules and qualifications for your team as a airliner has for their pilots, so you can make sure you get to where you want to go each and every single time safely and accurately. And I don't want you to be Boeing, just to make that clear. Let's go. Let's go with a legit airline where the doors don't fall off. So that maybe that was a bad metaphor, but I hope you get it. And I would like to bet that the reason why you're having to do most of your social media task is probably because you don't have this system, and you don't have a clear guidelines or a clear process of getting your VAs or your team from point A to point B. You don't have a clear starting point and end point, and the rules and the guardrails to get people to work within that. So you get that. Same result every time. Like, it would be like having that pilot again, right? So like, take me somewhere and do whatever you want to get me there. It's like, okay, that's not going to work. Like, no, you train the pilot, you make sure they follow a strict checklist, and they have check-ins from their superiors, in certain dates, and that's kind of the same idea here. So if this is the case for you, your team probably doesn't know what is expected, why it needs to be done, nor how it needs to be done with enough detail. They probably have a sense of like what and how, but chances are that you're not giving them either sufficient information, so you're not left in the blank, or you're giving them too much information, so they're just overwhelmed. They don't read the instructions, and they're not going to watch your 90-minute Loom on how to follow someone on Instagram, which happens all the time. And if you don't have these three things, like you don't have a what, that's going to lead you into like the things that they create is oftentimes wrong. An example of that, I actually got an example yesterday, is that you have this thing that we created, but they, like in the Instagram example, they have created a reel instead of a post, or they've done it in the wrong format, so it doesn't work for you. That's a classic example. Or how they create it. If you haven't really figured out exactly the how, I'm not saying you should give them step by step by step, because that could be too much, but you need to have the balance. And if you don't give them any how, then chances are that they're going to waste your resources. They're going to take excessive time to do it. They're going to be too slow, and they're going to cost you too much money. This is a classic, I would say. Because if we don't give them enough support in like, what is the process do you want them to follow? What are the tools that you kind of want them to follow? And unless they're really, really skilled, which most VAs aren't in the beginning, because usually once they get really good, they transition into something else to become like operations manager or whatever, then they might fumble around in the dark trying to figure things out, which means your bill of doing that graphic or reel or whatever, it's just going to be way higher than it has to. And if you haven't gotten the why down with specific details, then they will be unable to make good decisions, or none at all, which is, I don't know, probably worse, because then nothing happens. Then what happens then is they start creating a little bit of a graph, or a graphic, and then they come back to you and they're like, what do I do now? I was like, should I use this? Should I use Canva? Should I use this font? Should I do that? But if they have a why, they have a clear understanding, then they can make good decisions, because they understand what it is that you want. Does this make sense? Am I speaking too fast? Those are my two main questions so far. I think we might have a little bit of a lag, but let me know if I'm too fast. Okay, here are some real world examples that I've stumbled upon the last few days. A classic example is that your VA won't do a good job selecting clips. Let's say you have a podcast or a YouTube or whatever, and you're like, okay, give me some reels from this, some snippets. And they would just cut out the wrong things. It's like, yeah, you made a reel, but it's not exactly what I want. It's like, this doesn't get to the point. It doesn't create any curiosity. It's just a reel. It doesn't make any sense. Or they cut it like too short. So yeah, it's kind of same thing here. Like, it doesn't make any sense really. It's like, it's a reel, it looks nice, but the content within it just like misses the point. Or you will have like the basic errors of like typos in the captions. It's not good language. It's just, this is not how you would say it. It's just not your brand, right? These are classic examples. I had a pretty funny one yesterday, or not funny one, but of a classic example. She told her VA, hey, could you make me a testimonial reel from minute 28 to minute 30? And the person's like, sweet, sure, I'll do that. And then the person comes back with a reel that is 2 minutes long, exactly minute 28 to minute 30. And it's like, yes, they created a reel. Yes, they got the testimonial, but no, it was shitty. It's like, well, I didn't want the 2 minutes. That's not the why. Like, they didn't have an understanding of what the heck that is that they want to produce. And you might think that, oh, that's a stupid example. Well, it's fairly common. And I'm pretty sure you have something similar where it's like, they did what you told them to do, but then didn't understand what the heck they were supposed to do or why they were supposed to do something. So they couldn't make any decisions. And since they couldn't make any decisions, they just said, minute 28, minute 30. If I do that, I will have solved the task. And to be honest, they did, right? But they didn't solve it in the way you want it. So that's what we're going to solve. Stuff like that is what we're going to solve today. Hope that makes sense. You could kind of think about it this way. If you go to a restaurant and you start, like, sit down at your favorite Mexican restaurant, which is always the favorite ones, and you say, hey, I would like some green stuff. Some of you are going to recognize this example. Hey, I want some green stuff, some red stuff, maybe some flat stuff. Like, and the meat should be dead. You know, it's just like a random description of what it is that you want. Like, you wouldn't do that, right? That's not how you order something at a restaurant, because who the heck knows what you'll get? Like, whatever random things they have that are blue and red and yellow, it's going to show up. But instead, what you do is, like, you look at the menu and you pick the thing you want and you say, I want pepperoni pizza. It's red, it's flat, it has all those criteria I just mentioned, but it's something totally different than a, what do I know, another thing, like a bowl, a poke bowl or something like that. It has the same thing, but it's very different. So in the sense of ordering the pepperoni pizza, you are actually saying, hey, initiate process number 3. And that process is going to start off a chain reaction of things that it's going to deliver a pizza on your table that looks the same, tastes the same every single time. And that's kind of what you want for your business, right? I hope so, at least. I mean, maybe you just want people to show up with random stuff in your business. What do I know? So now we're going to play Where's Waldo Online CEO Edition. I'm going to show you a text. I'm going to read it to you, and you're going to tell me where things went wrong or what the problem is. And then you're going to tell me whether or not this is a problem you have in your business. Okay, Where's Waldo Online CEO Edition. Do you guys remember that game, by the way? And they also created an AI who could do Where's Waldo and point it out on a map super fast, which is cheating. But I kind of like the idea. You should Google that. Okay. First one. I think the biggest issue is that we're not posting consistently. And that's because of the time it takes for me to create the graphics, write the captions, and schedule the posts. It's from a client of mine. What's wrong with this one? Let me know. Where did she go wrong? Three, two, one. Here's the thing. The time it takes for me to create the graphics. So what she's telling us here is that she is what? What is she telling us? So I would argue that business owners who operate this way, they have a name. She's doing it all, yes. And they have a name. I call it the bottleneck entrepreneurs. You've probably heard it. It's a very simple thing. You are the bottleneck of your company, therefore you're the bottleneck entrepreneur. It's not high on creativity, this name, but it's very descriptive, so I'll take it. So here's the thing, right? It's based on her. it takes the time it takes for me to create the graphics, me to write the captions, me to schedule the posts. Those are the things we're going to have a look at today. That's what we're going to fix, because we don't want you to be there. So now my question is to you. How do you run your social media creation? Is it initiate process number 3, the pepperoni pizza thing? Or is it, I like a little bit of a green, a little bit of a red, a little bit of some of that stuff? Let me know. Are you initiate process number 3, or you're the descriptive one? I think we go deep inside. We're all a little bit of each, of course, but we tend to be, without the skill sets, on the descriptive side, the little bit of green, a little bit of red side, which is fine, because once you have, or having a crystal clear workflow, I believe is the best way to get the exact results from your VA consistently. So you could do what the heck that is that you want, which is probably grow your biz, break through that 6-figure plateau, and get time off and hang out with your friends or your family or whatever it is that has super high value other than your business. Because I'm pretty sure editing reels for 50 minutes is not your passion in life, even if the outcome is part of your passion. Yeah, Diana, like in between, right? Yeah, I think we all end up in between. And I think there are certain cases where we're all out on one side or all out on the other side. And I think we want to move as much things as possible towards the ordering with processes in mind. Cool. So this way of doing this, to make this work, there are a few things you need. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What were we going to do today? Sorry. You need a klar. You need a klar. I'm going to add some Swedish words. You're going to need a clear start and end point. You're going to need to define the purpose, the end state, and rules. This is kind of what we talked about before, the what, why, and how. Similar to that. And then you're going to have to include review points. When do you want to take a look at it to make sure that it's up to your standard? This will give you kind of that pepperoni pizza feeling, right? Where it's like, okay, we're going to create a reel, and then you record something, and then out on the other end, there is a edited reel that makes sense to you. And once you got this down, you can start doing the things that actually is unique to you, like being on camera, which, give it a few years, maybe you don't even have to do that. You can have like you can have a virtual person instead of you, which was kind of boring, right? It's kind of lame. Like, we want that human interaction thing. At least I do. And I kind of like when it's not perfect, because it's like, oh, you're also human. That's cool. And you will have a system in place that makes it easy to replace team members. So you don't have to worry about VAs ghosting you or disappearing, because if they do, it's like, it's fine. I got a system for it. I could bring someone on board. I could do it fast. So just tag along. Hey, sorry you had to leave. Sorry you had to do other things, but that's fine, because my business is not dependent on you. It's dependent on my processes, and my systems and processes are amazing. So I'll bring in someone else new. And as I told you before, you don't have to get stuck doing those tasks that you don't like. Some of you like to edit. I don't. So if we can get other people to do that, that's just amazing. And here's the beautiful part. Maybe this is a little bit off what we're talking about today, but I think the best part of this is that you'll be able to build a team that knows your style and can autonomously create content for you in your spirit. And all you need to do is kind of approve or decline it. This is exactly what I did when I went on a 2-year van trip from northern Sweden to southern Spain. I built this automation of, not an automation, but I built a system of delegation where I could get an idea. They would create that idea. I would check it to make sure it's up to standard, up to my voice. And we built this entire website, which allowed me to pay for my entire trip. It paid me for 2 years of traveling, which was amazing. And it's the same thing that we're going to do today. And this will move you from the employee of the month in your own business, the one who's always like, yes, did the most hours, did the most things, employee, to being the actual leader and the CEO, the one who kind of moves the business forward and enabling other people to do great work together with them. Okay, so why should you listen to this guy? I told you a little bit of story about the websites, but I think a far more interesting story is the one where I developed my skills to actually do delegation in a way that it works really well, and building these teams who know that they're able to work in my spirit and in the way that I want. So these little guys here, and the chubby guy in the middle is me. This is my 6-man EOD team. EOD is explosive ordnance disposal. Basically, we go to places where nobody else wants to go, and we pick up bombs out of the ground so that other people can pass through. So this is on, I think this is one of my first deployments. And I'm the chubby little guy in the suit, like the Hurt Locker one, right? Walking down range in a little suit, and you gotta add some smoke in the backgrounds because it's just cool. Everybody loves smoke. And I would go up to the bomb, and when I do this, I'm all alone. There's no one around me, because you only send the least amount of people to the most dangerous places, because if something happens, well, at least you only have one who gets screwed. Let's put it that way. That means that when I'm downrange, when I'm doing my thing, when I'm doing my 5% of task, like in business, we call it 5%, then the team behind me, they will be situated at the back, looking what I'm doing, but also being in charge. And I literally mean autonomously being in charge of some of the most important things that's happening. They're in charge of the security around me. They're in charge of the medical support that might be needed. And they're in charge of running the entire operation, because I'm doing things that's unique to me. So I literally delegated the safety and security of myself to other people in a country where people want to kill you. So that's why I developed these skills, to make sure that other people could work in my spirit, that they could do what it is that I want them to do, but also allow them as much degree of autonomy and decision-making as possible. And that's this exact same skill set that I took and put into my blog creation business and my content creation business, that allowed me to take this little truck, actually not that one, because that's my friend, but to go through the Alps, to go to Italy and enjoy 2 of the most amazing years of my life. And I think some of you guys kind of want that freedom, want that experience. And I truly believe that this is the way to do it, because these workflows, delegating, is the only way that you can grow your business while also reducing your workload. And then you can do whatever you want with that extra time you have. But I have yet to find a single 7-figure, 8-figure, whatever business owner who is not an expert at letting other people do things. Mic drop, I'm out. Okay, so how the heck do you do this? How the heck do you do this in your business? And tip number 1 is you don't have to. You could just work with me, because this is what I do for people. So if you're like, oh, crap, I don't have time to do the things that will make me get time, then all you need to do is go to sanctuleadership.com/podcast and get into the community and reach out to me, or send me an email, and let's have a conversation. And I will do this for you. But if you're still like, you know what, I want to give it a try. I have the time to do this. I'm going to give it a try. That's what we're going to do now. So you might need a pen and paper. You don't need a pen and paper, but you need something to write on, maybe a phone. And we're going to go through the 6 steps that you need to delegate your social media to a virtual assistant, which I should say a average virtual assistant. Like, the thing here with these systems are that you don't need a super performer. You just need someone average, someone who's like decent enough at their work. That's what you need. You need really good processes or really good workflows and average people. Cool. So we're going to have to define a start and an end point for the process. And I want to share something with you here to make this hopefully pretty clear. If we can get the interwebs to show us. So the start point and the end point is where handoff and takeover takes place. So the start point is where your team, where they will say, okay, now it's time for me to work. For some of you guys, it's going to be like in Asana or ClickUp or whatever, where you mark something as ready to create. And then the end point is going to be when they have done their part and they're handing it over to the next section or whatever it may be. So in the case of like content creation, I'm using a very simple 4P content creation cycle, which is probably the easiest way to do. In this case, with this client, we have picked a start point, which is some type of raw content in an idea vault. And she just shoves everything into a position where it's like, okay, here are my raw ideas. You make something out of it. It could be coaching call recordings, or it can be previously created content, something she did way back. That's the starting point. So that's where other teammates take over. The end point is when the team has engaged with the audience, when they have not only posted all of this stuff, but also engaged with the people. So that's the start and the end point of things. And how we do this is we divide it into 4 phases. And this is where, for some of you, it's going to be overwhelming, but bear with me. You're going to realize that this is actually what you're already doing, probably what you're already doing, but now you have a way to communicate that to someone else, so someone else can do it for you. That's the beauty. And I already have done this for you. So all you need to do is go to sunkersleadership.com/podcast, and then you will join the community for free and get all of these templates, all of these tools that we're going to talk about. Okay, that's the step number 1. Step number 2 would be to define the purpose, end state, and rules, which we talked about in the beginning. And if we start out with the purpose, here's where you got to figure out what the heck is this workflow supposed to solve for you. I'm going to see if I can bring up the next slide here for you so you can tag along with me. What the heck is this supposed to do for you? What problem is it supposed to solve? So one example that I see fairly often is that we're not consistently posting. So it's like, since everything is dependent on me, we can't post consistently, which means whenever I want to take some time off, it doesn't really happen, which means we're not getting the sales that we want. So the problem we're solving is not getting enough sales because we're inconsistently posting and because I have to do everything. So that's the line of it. But what's the purpose here? So let's say our purpose here is to be consistent on social media, consistently posting on social media. Okay, cool. Now we got to have an end state. Let's see here. You can go back to this one. Now we got to have an end state. And the end state is, okay, by the end of this workflow, what will they have done? What will they have created for you? And here I want you guys to tag along with me. When I say end state, I want you, when I go through these things, like, what does it mean for your business? So the end state here is, okay, by the end of this workflow, they will have repurposed old content. They will have, let's make it simple. It's a YouTube video, and you will have repurposed the YouTube video into Reels, into audio for a podcast. 2 things. That would be the end state. So that means when they're at the end of this process, they should look to make sure that they have created these 2 things. If they haven't, they need to go back and they have to do these 2 things to make sure. And then you want to have the rules. And the rules are the things that they have to do or must not do. These are the things that if they break these or not follow these, they have failed with the task. Something would be like following meta ads policy, or using a template. So if they're not using the template, the task has failed. If they did not follow the policy, they have also failed. Does this make sense? And if you guys have any like takeaways and aha moments, please let me know. It's some good for me to get some feedback on this side. Also, I want to let you know, it's like inside the community that I mentioned before, there is in-depth information on how to use the purpose, end state, and rules, because I believe you need to communicate that every time to your team, every time you give them a task. If you think you're going to send them a Slack message to describe things like red, green, blue, and think you're going to get a pepperoni pizza at the other side, you're probably not. You probably already have that experience. But if you use this really simple framework and the template that I have for you, then chances of you getting the pepperoni pizza is way higher. Okay. Once you have that figured out, you need a visual flow chart. That's what I just showed you. That's like how the process is outlined. Then you need to implement this workflow into your project management system, which means like when you press ready to create in Asana, it pings someone that are supposed to do it, and then they automatically gets directed to the next stage in your workflow. Yeah, it would be a good idea to see the example of these 6 steps. Yeah, that's true. I should see if I could pick it up, but I want to make sure that we're going to go through this, so it's probably going to make sense. I hope. And if it doesn't, you got to let me know. And then, of course, you got to train your team. Now you figured out what the heck that is that you want them to do. You've implemented it in your workflow so that it makes sense for everyone. And then you train your team how to use it. And then you evaluate performance. It's the same as everything else we do. What we're going to focus on is the start endpoint and then the purpose end state rules. That's like the main thing here. The visual flow chart you will get from me. The implementation into the workflow you could also get from me, because I have Asana templates, and I think I have ClickUp and some other templates that you can use, or even a Google Sheet if you want that, because that's what I use, to be honest. And then train your team and evaluate performance is something we'll do in a later webinar if that's interesting. So let's actually go through what it looks like. And this is the exciting stuff. I think this is exciting stuff. So I told you before, we divided it into 1, 2, 3, 4 phases. We have the phase 1, which is the preparation phase. Here's where you create the idea, figure out what the heck that is that you want to create, and make the rough content. Then we go into a production phase. This is where things are being created. Then we go to maybe a repurpose phase if there's something we need to make more out of, like a YouTube video that needs to get into other things. Then we go into a publish and engage. Here's where we publish it, and then we make sure we get a little bit of attraction on it. And then, of course, we want to analyze the performance of the post so we can do more of what's working and less of what's not working. And we're going to go through these steps, and I kind of want you to see if this works for you, if it makes sense, and then what changes you need to do, if any, to make this work in your business. And if you don't have to do any changes, which chances are you won't, then I suggest you just go grab this thing, because you could just implement it straight today. And then you just do the minor tweaks that you might have to do. So if we go through, if we pass phase number 1, which is where I create the rough content, like this video will be automatically uploaded, and then it will end up in this little batch of things, and it's going to end up in my little spreadsheet, which pings the people to create some type of core content, whether it's Instagram or blog post or something. And then it will go back to me for review number 1. So they've created a thing. I will do a review and say, hey, this is good enough, or it's not good enough. If it doesn't, if it needs some improvement, then I just tell them what improvements need to be made, and I take those improvements and I shove them into my SOP, because every time they do something wrong, I want the business to learn from it, not me to learn from it specifically, not them to learn from it specifically, but the business, which means my SOP, which is connected to every phase, will get better and better and better every time they make a mistake or do something really well. This is basically like an FAQ. You probably have an FAQ, which is like, oh God, I'm so tired of answering these questions. Like, your FAQ on your webpage is the SOP for responding to clients. And you should take that same type of idea and do that with your content creation stuff. So every time your VA is like, does something wrong, then that becomes either part of the purpose, the end state, or the rules of your SOP. And the SOPs are the instructions to support your workflow. So when people go here and they're like, I got to create core content, what the heck does that mean? They will go to the SOP, which is named the same thing, and have all the information they need to succeed. Does that make sense? Or I'm going in crazy loops here now into the deep end of delegation. Okay, so if this works, they've created the core content, however you define that. Maybe it's like in my position, it's like I do a podcasts, and then I record a podcast, and they turn it into a podcast and upload it and make sure that it's great. And I go through it and listen to it and it's like, yeah, this is great, I like it. And then they park it. Parking is the parking spot where they like either schedule it because it needs to be scheduled, or they park it there because we're going to do something else with it. But this is the parking spot where we have all the finished content. And then if it isn't instantly published, then it goes into a repurpose phase where they'll take the same thing, create the things that I wanted to turn into. I wanted to be reels, sometimes graphics, and sometimes some audio clips. And then I wanted to turn into an email. I want to be turned into a LinkedIn post. It turns into a bunch of things. And then they tag me for review and I go through them and I go, yeah, this makes sense. Or I loop back and say, hey, we need to figure some things out. And then they park the repurpose things in the same database. So there's just basically a long list of categorized items that we can use and repurpose and redo a bunch of things. So everything you create, you want to keep it in a nice little database. Very simple. Then we go to the next to last stage, which is the publish and engage. All the things that end up in your parking spot, let's see it this way. They will be published or scheduled. That's the idea, right? Because that's kind of what we're doing. And then you have, in this case, with this person, everything she wanted to publish in a Facebook group goes a separate line, and everything that goes on Instagram goes on a separate route. And everything that goes on Instagram, she also wanted to share on stories. And then either way, wherever it's published, she wants to engage with the audience. And it's worth noticing here that each step of this has SOPs, instructions, and detailing what the heck it means to engage with the audience. What the heck does it mean to share it on stories? What does it mean to do all these things? So it's not just like leaving it up to them to like, I'm going to engage a little bit. Like, no, we set out clear metrics on what the heck it means to engage with the audience. Like, well, we need to engage with every single comment. Okay, cool. But what does it mean to engage with every comment? Does it mean you could just say thumbs up, or does it mean they have to actually do something? And how do you measure that it's valuable and useful for your community? Stuff like that is what we detail into the SOP. That's where the real work is. That are also something that we do for you if you decide to work with us, and where we have a bunch of templates you can use. So what I think the easiest way for you guys to do this is basically grab all the workflows, grab all the SOPs that I already have, go through them, adapt them to your business, which is probably not going to need a lot of implementation or changes to do. And yeah, off you go. You have a really good start, I believe. Okay, any questions on the first three phases, which is the actual production and creation and publishing of things? Is this something? Yeah, exactly. Okay, I have some of these pieces. Diana is saying I have some of these pieces done, and some others I need to still implement. And that's, yeah, I think that is a great example. I didn't think about that, but oftentimes we have all these things, and what we're doing right here now is that we're like figuring out what the heck is my business doing and making it streamlined and workflow so that someone else can do it, because we already know how to do it. But this is what makes it possible for someone else to do it. That's the beauty of this thing. So yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, and if you can figure out the things that are missing, and you can either add them in or take something out, and you can then start attaching them to each other so you have this workflow, then it's pretty easy to get someone to jump on board. It's going to take a while to figure out the details of your business and your style, but that is the unique thing to do. That is your 5%. It's figuring out how to do this, how to lead your company. And it is an investment. Like, you could skip this and say, I'm just going to do it because it takes so much time. But then you're probably not thinking about your business 5 years from now. Because 5 years in the future, you're going to be very excited that you did the work today to invest in getting your time back. And that's a biggie. And if you really believe in your business and it's going to be around for many years, then it's a no-brainer. Like, if you can invest, I don't know, 2 days into this, and you know you'll have a process that people can jump on board and do the things for you, it's like a return on investment on time in, I don't know, a month. depending on how much time. It's so good. Okay, rant over. Okay, we got a little bit of question. What would you recommend when someone doesn't know what they're meant to post on social media? I have some clients who aren't sure about the specific content. So should they learn, or should they send their VAs to trainings to learn? This is a good one. I'm a strong believer that I want to make my teams or my teammates better at the things that they're doing than I am. Like, that's the golden thing. My job is to make everyone else better than me and what they're supposed to be doing, so they can give me advice on how the heck to do this thing. If you don't know what to do, and if it's something that's like, if you have something more important to do, then learn this skill. Like, when it comes to like social media strategy and social media tactics and all crap like that, like, get a basic foundation of how it works, which I know you already have, but the idea is that, I understand your client is struggling with this. I would recommend, like, get a basic foundation of the biggest mistakes, the things that are going to definitely ruin things, and then get your VA to really become good at it. And then maybe it's also better to just get someone who's already good at it and pay them to do it. But I know there are ideas of like, oh, you need to be like in copywriting, right? Like, you need to be really good at copywriting to understand what is good copy. Like, then you would have to apply that to everything. That doesn't make any sense. Like, that's why you hire people, because they're better at things than you are. Otherwise, this doesn't make any sense. That's just a rant. It gets me excited because I know I hear this all the time. It's like, well, you got to know copy to understand how to hire someone to do copy for you, blah, blah, which, okay, fine. Was that a good enough answer? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I really believe that it's good to have a understanding of the biggest mistakes, the things that you really want to avoid, but then you want to enable other people to become really good at it. Because, to be honest, you can only become good at one thing, like really good at one thing. Like, if you look at the Olympics and stuff, right? If you're a super good swimmer, you're probably a pretty shitty runner. Like, and if you want to be doing good at those things, you're probably going to be not in the Olympics for either of them, unless you're some type of super freak. Yeah, and it's also tricky for people like me and other people. Like, we love learning stuff, so we're like, I'm gonna learn a new skill. Awesome. So it's a little bit of a trick. Okay, I want to head on to phase number 4, which is the last one, but maybe also one of the most important things, and which I don't really see this. I know a bunch of you guys are tracking, likes, comments, whatever, but you're not tracking, I'm guessing, how your team is performing. So, like, a really big part of this is realizing that you're getting a return on investment on your VAs. Like, you want to track the metrics of your social media account, sure, but what's even more important is that you're tracking the progress of your team and yourself. So this is the part where you want to sit down and think about, okay, what things do I have to do, or my team has to do, that will lead me towards the success that I want? And so in my case, I have a very simple CEO dashboard, I call it. I might as well just show you guys, which I go through. As soon as I complete something that is relevant, I just use this tool to keep track of myself and my team that they're doing the right things. Because if you pick a few metrics or a few things that you want to do that's really important, you want to track those, and you want to make sure that you're staying on target all the time. So in my case, it's very simple. I did something like this. Okay, my number 1 KPI, unique pieces of content created, recorded. So every time I do something, I just go in here, I press like, okay, I did 1. Like, this live is going to be a 1, which I'm actually going to do right now. And then I'm like, okay, I ask a few questions, and then I have my KPI number 2. Well, I haven't done that. KPI number 3, I haven't done that. And I submit it, and boom, I've tracked the things that I've done so far. This will come up on a little graph, and I'll be sure to see, like, week over week that, okay, I'm doing the things that I have promised the business and myself to do. And my team does the same. Whenever they complete a task that is one of those 3 main metrics, they go in there and they make sure that they enter it. So we can make sure that we do all the most important things in a week first, and then we can do all the stuff around. So that's a little bit of the of the 4 phases of delegating your content: preparation, production, publishing, and performing. 4 things. And you can get this stuff in the community, sanctusleadership.com/podcast. And you can also get there's a bunch of things. There's training on how to do this. There's templates you can use. There's the crystal clear delegation tool, which is basically for you to fill out every time you want to delegate something to someone so that they have enough information. Not too much, not too little, so that they could do the what, how, and why thing properly. So you can get the results that you want, which will save you the time and rework, a bunch of save up time on rework and stuff like that. Okay, so what are the metrics to use to measure VA's performance? So this comes down to actually what it is that you want them to do, which is what you're asking, of course. But in my case here, when I go to one of my teammates, one of the most important thing is that if we don't publish stuff, then we're not really doing anything. Like, I can record everything in the entire world and we can edit everything, but it doesn't get published. It has no value to anyone else. That's just how it is, right? So my main target for Remy, for example, is content published. How many pieces of content did I publish this week? And it's like published. And she has her goals. And I also define what type of content count. And then she has a few more metrics. But content published in this sense is a big one, I would say. And I'm not going to screw up her system here, because then she's going to be like, what's happening? But published content is a big one. And this also, the CEO dashboard here, which connects to a little graph and makes it very simple, is also inside the community for free as well. So you can grab that one, where you will see how that is. Yes, Diana, it's good, right? It's so simple. That's the best part. It's just so very simple, which I love. I love simplicity. I'm not a big guy when it comes to things looking good, as you might have noticed by my not super fancy PowerPoint, but I don't care, because I just like it working good. Okay, here we go. I think that is the big extent of this. Inside the community, you'll be able to get the crystal clear delegation tool, which will help you with what I told you before. You'll get the flowcharts. You can check out the CEO School podcast if you just like to listen to this better. And I think now it's like, the big question here is like, how can you get this done without spending a shit ton of time? Because this takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of energy, but it doesn't have to. So the question is, how can you get your team to work autonomously without having to do any of this? You have a choice. You could go out there and you could take all this thing and you can implement it, and you can do a little bit of trial and error, and sooner or later you will succeed. It's going to take you a while, but you will get there. And the question is whether or not you have that time and you have that money to wait it out, or if you just want to get it done, you want to start this thing today. And then if you choose that, you can join us with the BDE workflow, where I basically will do all this for you, implement this specifically into your business. And this is a founding member offer. There's 5 spots. Like, it's actually only 5 spots, because I do the thing that Hormozy is doing, where he's like, you do 5 and then you increase your prices. You do 5 more, then you increase your prices. So if you get on now, this is absolutely the most ridiculous, simple offer, or most intimate and most best priced offer I will probably ever do on this one. And simply put, I will take your tasks, I'll take the way you do things, and I will turn it into SOPs and workflows, just as what we've looked at. And I will train your team. Like, literally, I will do everything for you. That's the cool part of this. It's such a ridiculous offer, and I will do it for you with your VAs or whatever team you have until they can do it for you. So whatever things you're doing that you think sucks, in a few days, I could have your team do that for you. And if I can't have your team do that for you, I will work with them until they do. And if you still feel like, that's never going to work, what if you take 10 years doing it? Well, if it takes 1 day more than you think, then I'll give you your money back. And that's it. So you literally have nothing to lose and you have everything to win, or at least you have a shit ton of time to win. And time equals money, especially if you can grow your business with that time. So you can kind of take a deep breath and focus on the thing that actually makes sense in your business. Cool. So I want to show you this. I'm very proud of this one. I'm very excited. And I'm just going to, once again, it's very simple. I like to keep it simple. So it's a Google Doc. Why not? Why make a sales page that takes 200 hours to do when I can just have a Google Doc? I love it. Here's the idea. Within 7 days, I'll transform your most dreadful tasks into streamlined workflows and train your team to outperform your expectations. And you already know what I'm going to do for you because we've already gone through the training. But I want to make clear for you what this includes, like what you will get, what will this do for you. So first of all, we will assess your business. We will look at what the heck is in your business. What are the opportunities that you might not be seeing? Since I come from a background of like really trying to figure out what the heck can I delegate and how do I do that? You remember the bomb disposal thing where if I don't delegate, then my life is going to be kind of shitty. So we're going to do an assessment. It might not be social media. It might be something else that you will gain more time from to start out with. And then we're going to build it. And we're going to make it so stupidly simple so that any average VA that you can find can easily go in there and do it for you. Because we will create the training, we'll create the SOP, we'll create the workflow. And if you're thinking, well, why don't I just get my VA to do it? To create the SOP. And I invite you to do that. And I think it's a little bit tricky because most of them don't have the experience of creating these things. Most of them don't have the experience of training your team how to do this. And you will have to interact with the VA to try to figure out the SOP. In this case, as you will see here, I will be the operations manager, which means I will squeeze myself in between you and your team and handle all those questions that's coming up. All those things that your team is going to ask, like, how do I do this? They're going to deal with me, not you, which means you don't even have to deal with the process and iteration of creating these things, which is pretty damn cool. I will train your teams. I'll be your operations manager, and you don't need any extra tech or software or anything. I just shove this thing straight into whatever it is that you're already using, and you will have a package of onboarding training. So that means once you're onboarding someone new, they have already a process to get them from, heck, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know anything about your company, to, oh, I can actually work within these, this SOP and these things. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Actually, it's super cool, to be honest. Okay, now you're asking, well, what the heck is this? How much is it going to cost me to get my time back, my freedom back? And you let that sit while I drink a little bit of coffee, which has vanilla in it, which is kind of weird, but I like it. So here's the deal. This is the founding members offer. And you probably want the Bald Eagle package. That's the thing. Like it's a good name, right? I love that name. It's ultimate freedom. It's a freaking Bald Eagle. That's the freedom, right? Which will give you 5 detailed workflows and a dedicated operation manager, this guy, for 30 days. But the really good deal here is the freedom package, which is only $13.37, which is a good number. If you get the number, you get the number. It's a funny one, which is basically super cheap right now. And this is the thing that I'm going to increase as per Hermosi style every time I get 5 more clients to kind of figure out what they get the breaking point when people don't want to buy it anymore. So this is your opportunity to get in super cheaps for $13.37, and I will do 2 highly detailed workflows. This could be your entire social media content creation process with training, onboarding, everything. And something else. It could be what I'm doing now for a lady, which is her entire email inbox, which means like right now, all her email are coming to her and it's complete chaos. It's a dark hole. And after the process, she only gets the emails that are highly relevant and highly important. Everything else is dealt with her team. Dealt with her. I don't know. It's dealt by someone else, by her team. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's a cool thing. Now you get to choose. It's up to you. It is 5 members only, and here's the promise. Within 7 days, your team will perform tasks autonomously to your exact standard, or I will train them until they do. And if you're still not happy, I'll refund 100% of your investments, no questions asked, and you'll keep all the SOPs, you'll keep all the workflows, you'll keep everything we've done up to that point. You have nothing to lose, but a bunch of time to gain, I'm pretty sure. So all you need to do now is schedule a free demo, and you do that by reaching out to me at Sankus Leadership on Instagram, sending me an email, gabriel@sankusleadership.com. You'll find all the links in this YouTube video below. Yeah, and if you don't know exactly what it is that you need to delegate or need to do, but you just have a feeling that there's a bunch of time to save, don't worry. We'll figure that out on the call. And if you get on the call and you realize this is not for me, that's totally fine as well. Cool. And if there's more information you need, it's all in here. But reach out to me. And that's about it. That's our little live today. I hope it was a useful thing. And let's do a few rounds of questions if there are any. I think Diana has already asked all your questions, which is great. Let's see. Yeah, so it's about the extra tech. Yeah, it's a big one, right? Because every time it feels like people just want to shove you more things. Like I want fewer things. Like I was offered it's like some type of funnel system yesterday, and they had everything. It's like 200 million things going on. I'm like, I don't want 200 million things. Like that's not what I want. I want something simple. I want fewer things. I want simplicity. That's what I want. So, well, now it's up to you. Go out there, do this with you. You have the workflow, you have the template. Go out there and do it yourself. Reach out to me and I'll do it for you. But whatever you do, work hard to get your time back. Invest in getting your time back so that you can grow your business, so you can hang out with your family, so you don't have to be burned out like most people who are entrepreneurs. Yes, exactly. You're stuck with even more tools and tech to learn, Diana is saying. Excellent. Okay, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Go out there, get your time back, and take care.